Okay, so now the meeting is being recorded at least, so be aware of that. And I know you'll have put your introductions in the chat, so thank you for that. Let's get into the whole pit and what this survey is. So now I know at least one person here hasn't done PIT before, so I'm going to go ahead and just share everything about PIT. If you've heard it already, don't worry, but we're happy to have you back. So PIT stands for the point in time count. And what that means is we're getting as many people as we can in this community to volunteer and help us find our unhoused neighbors at this one point in time all at once so that we're not duplicating numbers. You know, if we counted today and tomorrow, we might run into the same people. So it all has to be in the same day. We want to make sure we're spread as far out as we can to meet anyone anywhere. So this count is required by HUD. It allows us to collect the data for our community. And it gives us a snapshot of individuals and their families experiencing homelessness in the community during this single 24-hour period. And PIT doesn't run for 24 hours, but we're out here finding everyone we can during this time. So it does include those in shelter who are counted regularly through HMIS. And HMIS is the Homeless Management Information System that these agencies, including the HLA, operate within. We put our clients in here, and that's how we maintain the data in the community. And those unsheltered who are only counted once a year through PIT is why we're going out on this day, because there might be some people who have not entered the system and are not in our database, have not gone to a shelter, and have not been counted. So we want to meet as many as we can and make sure we get those numbers. So here is why we do PIT. This helps our continuum of care determine where our neighbors without homes live. And on the next slide, you'll see a heat map of kind of where we've canvassed and the numbers that we've met throughout the years. So in the survey, which you'll see later as well, you'll see we have different questions that will get us answers to questions like what causes homelessness. So we kind of get a little deeper than just what are you, what's your name, like where did you sleep last night? And this also allows us to get a little deeper than that, asking them what resources might be needed to maintain permanent housing. So not only does it give us a chance to get the numbers, but you're having a whole conversation with this person. This gives them the opportunity to tell someone, what's going on with them and what might be best to help them. And it also will show us how effective strategies have been in addressing homelessness, because with this PIT count, we can see where the numbers are. They going up or are they going down? How is it doing in this county? So just a little more on that. This is the heat map I was mentioning. So you see it goes all the way up to, I don't even know what city, past Palm Harbor, up north, which is good because we rarely get many from far up north, right? We get a lot of people from the city centers where all the resources are targeted. So it gives us a chance to be like, what's missing from up there? What do we need to do more of? How can we expand? So the data we get from PIT allows us to secure approximately 6 million in funding for critical resources. And that goes in the entire continuum of care in Pinellas County. So it doesn't just go to the HLA, it goes to a lot of different agencies here that are meant for helping. And then it also is used to inform public policies. This PIT data, I can say for sure, has been presented in multiple committees, including the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. These numbers and the data that comes from this is just so beneficial to everybody. So it's really awesome that we get so many people every year helping us with this. And that goes to guide local planning and resource allocation. So this heat map, and actually I'm going to switch to the next one here. This is the numbers from the past PIT data. So you see it goes year by year, and you'll notice we did skip 2021. That was kind of the peak of COVID, so we didn't do PIT that year, just for safety. But you can see the numbers going down, and what I want to point out is that not only did the numbers decrease, but what's really cool is that I know for a fact, since I was able to do PIT the last 3 years, that we got more volunteers over the last couple of years. So we were able to expand the regions that we were actually canvassing. So I know that maybe in a few years past, we didn't have that many people in North County, but last year we spread out a little bit more up there. So to know that we kind of expanded our reach and we're still getting the same or even a little bit less is really cool. So it's not like we're just like not canvassing the rest of the county and we're trying to keep our numbers down. All right, so are there any questions about that? Anything that came to mind? I'm seeing head shakes. You're welcome to put it in the chat too, and we can read it out. So if you don't want to come off mute or anything, feel free to put it in chat and we'll be taking a look at that too. But we'll have definitely a few more stops for questions. So if anything pops in your head, don't worry about interrupting. So volunteering, this is what we will be doing. And this year is just a little bit different. So training is really important this year. I know if you did like the last 2 years, the training was the same each year, but do you really believe the number of unhoused individuals is going down? So this is a really good question. It could be due to a number of factors. So even though we're expanding, it could be that the day that we do pit, those folks were maybe not in town or maybe not out in a place that we were able to get them counted. So I can't speak to stuff like that, but knowing that we're doing our due diligence by expanding our search is something that kind of gives me hope with what we're doing. Like, and being on the inside, I know that HLA is not just we're just looking in areas where like no one is. So when we do our count, the numbers are skewed. I know that from the inside that when we form pit and what we're doing for pit, that we're trying to find as many folks as we can. And I guess that's all I can speak to is the effort that we have, because I can't say for sure. It's just whoever we're finding, because we count numbers from the jails and from the shelters as well. So we get that data. And then data from PIT is folks that are on the street that maybe haven't entered the system in those ways. So I want to say I do believe the number is going down. From other data we have as well, we have a shelter prioritization list for families. And I know that number fluctuates, but has kind of been going down as well. And I don't know what that might be due to. I mean, it's a bigger question for sure. We don't have the resources to get all of that information and control for the variables, but I'm hopeful about that data, definitely. But thank you for the question. So what is PIT like for volunteers? So knowing that there's someone that has not participated in PIT, sorry if this is redundant for everybody, but what happens is there will be a team of trained volunteers. So after this training, you will be a trained volunteer and you're going to be serving people across Pinellas County, depending on your deployment site and the area that you will be going to. Teams will be led by one team leader, and it's usually someone who's associated with an agency or has been doing PIT. So they're pretty comfortable in this setting. You can go to them with any questions that you have. And the locations that you'll be deployed to, what you can kind of expect is areas like bus stops, resource centers, libraries, parking lots, and similar locations. And shifts may involve a significant amount of walking, so make sure you're wearing comfortable shoes, like you won't need heels or anything like that. And you can dress comfortably, you don't need to be in business casual or anything like that. But make sure you're prepared for any kind of inclement weather, a light jacket, maybe a rain jacket or umbrella if you think it might rain. You never know. So please let HLA Victoria Kelly know if there's any special accommodations that you might need on the day of. Some folks are not able to walk that much, and we have different assignments that we can choose from. So if that's something that you need adjusted, then just let Victoria know, and she will definitely be able to accommodate you. And the shift assignments. So these assignments should be coming to your email on the 19th. Now, with the last minute registrations, you might get it a day late, but most likely she's going to have everyone ready to go by the 19th. So if you have not received your assignment by Sunday, the 21st, then make sure you email Victoria so that she can make sure you are assigned and you're on the list. and make sure you're checking your junk folder if you've never emailed with her before, in case it goes into your spam or something like that. Otherwise, we should be keeping our schedules free on the day of PIT, the 25th, until you get your assigned shift. But if you are only available for one specific shift and you noted that on your registration, you should be assigned for that shift. She is usually pretty good at making sure that you're getting the shift that you're able to come to, of course, because not everyone has all day to do PIT. Like some of our agencies allow us the entire day to be working on PIT. So the shifts are 3 hours long and they begin at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., 1 p.m., and 4 p.m. So that's what you can be expecting. Someone said they forgot what shifts they signed up for. Can I double check before I'm officially assigned? So I believe you get a confirmation email that summarizes what you submitted on your registration. You should be able to search your email for the you've registered like 2024 PIT volunteer. If you don't see that, absolutely reach out to Victoria and just ask, hey, this is my name. I signed up for this shift, I think, or I need this shift. Can you make sure I get it? So you can just definitely, and we can make note of that too, actually. So if you wouldn't mind, Chloe, and we'll reach out to Victoria just to make sure. But I'm pretty sure the registration should show your summary of details that you submitted. Thank you for asking. So deployment centers, this is where you're going to meet up before you head out. So when you are coming to get assigned to a team lead, you'll be coming to one of these 4 locations: Bully Center, City of Largo, Florida Dream Center, or HEP. And you will get this information in your assignment email, and you will know right where to go. Preparing for PIT. So don't be nervous. It's a super casual day. I think my first time I brought a backpack and a water bottle just to be sure. And I brought snacks, but I did not need them. Make sure your phone or tablet, whatever you'll be using, is fully charged. I didn't have battery issues when I was deployed. But we also didn't get that many surveys where I was going. So just make sure you bring a charger just in case your phone dies a little faster than expected. Again, preparing for any weather. We don't want anyone out there freezing cold or too hot or wet if we didn't have a raincoat. So just do a little weather check in the morning before you head out and grab the light rain jacket maybe. We definitely want to avoid bringing too many personal belongings. That is going to be like if you have a giant heavy water bottle, maybe don't bring that one. You definitely won't need your work laptops when you're out here. You know, it's 3 hours. We're just going out and doing these interviews. So just make sure we're not carrying too much because you'll be kind of walking around and you want to be hands-free if you're going to be doing the surveys on your phone and then handing out bus passes and stuff. I think I brought, because the first year we did it, it was paper surveys and electronic. So then I carried a clipboard, and even the clipboard and your phone is like, it feels like so much. So we want to be as hands-free as possible. And would bringing a backpack be a good idea? Yeah, I prefer bringing a backpack when I'm out because, again, I brought snacks and I didn't need them, but it makes me feel way better knowing I have like a bar I could eat if I get hungry and we're still out here or whatever goes on. So it's absolutely appropriate to bring a backpack. Just anything comfortable. Imagine like going for a little walk. Like what would you want to have on you in Florida weather for 3 hours? So you'll want to arrive at your deployment center about 15 or 30 minutes before your shift begins. Usually it's like you get there, you'll park, you might need an extra couple minutes to find the door to get in. Sometimes they use a different door and we're not used to it, or they want you to come in a different entrance. So just allow yourself a little wiggle time to get there, get assigned, and then get deployed right when your shift starts to get out there. For the big groups, some agencies are volunteering in big groups. We're hoping they arrive about 30 minutes early so we can get all that organized. It can get kind of hectic in the deployment center if a lot of people are coming at the same deployment time. So that, and the team leads will come 30 or more minutes early just so they can get settled, get their team assignments, and then get organized before heading out. You will exchange information with your team lead like right away, hopefully. So you'll exchange numbers and they'll get familiar with who is on their team because the team lead will be responsible for those on their team. So as a volunteer, you should feel comfortable going to your team lead with any questions you have regarding PIT on that day. Any other questions about that? Thank you for your questions so far. These are good. Not seeing any. Keep putting them in the chat for sure if you guys have anything. Thank you. So as you go through PIT, you're going to want to stay with your team. I don't think we did much of a scatter situation. Usually everyone stays within eyesight of each other. So you don't want to go too far. As long as everyone can see each other, you're okay to kind of split up, maybe use the buddy system. When you're doing these interviews, you're going to want to obviously be polite and make it as conversational as you can. Not to say personalize it, but it can feel robotic as you're reading off the paper. So if you've never read the surveys before, I would suggest you do it out loud a few times just to get used to kind of saying what's on the paper, getting them to confirm that they're okay doing the survey and all of that. You might have time to do it with your own team actually on the day of, but definitely read a little bit before. And be prepared to answer questions that they might have for you about PIT, about the agencies that are involved. What you can do if you don't know something, definitely you can reach out to the team lead or you can let the person know that you're happy to get back to them with any answers. You can get their information and just be like, okay, yeah, like I will definitely send this back to the folks that run PIT and then get you the answers that you're looking for. So don't feel uncomfortable if you don't know something. We don't expect you to learn everything about the continuum of care just because you're volunteering for PIT. So just let them know you got their question and you'll be sending it back to someone who can answer it for them. And when you're approaching people, make sure you ask if they want to participate in this survey about housing resources in Pinellas County. So it can feel like usually I think the first year someone was like, how do we do this? We just walk up and say, hi, I'm doing a survey for blah, blah, blah. But you can do that preface question and just say like, hey, would you want to participate in a survey about housing and resources in Pinellas County? Once you complete it, you can get a bus pass, which is true. We're handing out bus passes as incentives. So just keep that in mind too. And if someone is too disoriented to answer the survey, terminate the interview and thank them for their time. So that can be due to a number of things, but if for whatever reason you don't think this data being collected is sufficient or they can't answer the questions really, or there's just any issue with it, you're free to terminate the survey and go ahead and remove yourself from that situation. I don't think we went over safety in this one, but safety should not be a concern when you're with your team. You know, you're just talking to folks on the street. That's it. We're not getting deployed to any kind of like tent sites or anything like that. You're not going to be going in the woods, in a trail, nothing where you might feel uncomfortable. We do partner with the police officers, so they go to any places that might be of concern for safety. So you're going to be totally fine when you're out there. I think I went around the mall one year. So you're just like walking around the perimeter of the mall. So at any point in time, you have a question, you have a concern, again, go to your team lead. So just remember when you get there, you're going to want to exchange information with your team lead, get their number, so you can always reach out in case you did get separated for whatever reason. So getting into the survey. Before PIT, please read the training guide and practice the digital surveys, which you'll see it run through here in a video. But during PIT, you're going to want to complete a survey for each adult present. So adult is 18 or older. And the supplemental surveys are used for minors and absent adults. And then you're going to be completing this survey using Survey 123. So if you've done PIT in previous years, you had Outreach Grid. We are no longer using that. If you didn't use it for anything else, you can delete it because we are using a different app now. So you will not be using that one, just to be clear. And we still have emergency paper surveys, but we are hoping to shift as much as we can to electronic, of course, to prevent any heavy data entry on the back end. But you're gonna, if you did do paper surveys, of course, return it to your team lead along with the bus passes, and they'll get it back to us. Okay, so incentives, I mentioned the bus passes before. Each respondent will be given a PSTA bus pass when they complete the survey. So anything at the end that's left over, you can return to your team leaders along with those paper surveys, all of them unfinished and complete, every survey. All of that goes to your team lead, and they will be the ones that return it to the deployment center. Resource cards will be available for distribution. A resource card is like a mini version of the resource book that HLA has. And this has just a list of the resources in the county. So we will have that to be distributed on the day of PIT as well, just to be a little more lightweight. And then some volunteers want to bring different items they have to donate on the day of PIT, just kind of like it's a day of giving and getting out there and helping the community. So they think, oh, I'm going to bring the stuff I can donate or hand out as well. We are trying to keep that to a minimum. We just want to kind of focus on PIT. You can definitely donate that to the shelters. You can reach out to your team lead or a representative in regards to donating whatever you might have to donate. But for PIT, we're just asking that we don't hand out additional items. And we had another, if you terminate an interview, should you still offer a bus pass? Great question. This is up to you. So keep in mind, some folks are, if you did meet someone at the bus stop, they might be waiting to get on a bus. So if a bus comes and you're in the middle of an interview, absolutely give them the bus pass. Say, thank you so much for, starting this interview with me. Have a great day. Or same thing, if they got off and you were able to start an interview, but they had to run for whatever reason, absolutely. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. And then give them a bus pass. So that'll be up to you, but we're not too strict on that. How long does a normal interview take? Another really good question that I had answered in my last training because I was actually assigned at a deployment center last year, so I didn't do any surveys. But my first time, the surveys took a longer time because I wasn't as comfortable. So I kind of fumbled through the questions, and then there's just like a lot of delay during it. But somebody answered who was a tenured PIT participant, and they said it's about 5 minutes. If if you're reading and you're talking, just I guess without many pauses, it could take about 5 minutes. So, and you'll see when we get to the app, you'll kind of see the questions and you'll get a feel for like about how long it might take. So, thank you. And then again, any other questions? And there'll be plenty more time. We have a little more information, and then we go through the whole survey on the app. So anything that comes up, go ahead and put it in the chat. I can stop the video at any time. So thank you for all the questions. So the PIT survey and app. So here we go. This is the logo, the green notebook with the check mark. That's going to be the logo for this new app we're using. And we call it Survey 123, but it does have like a thing right before it. I think it's ArcGIS 123. Oh, it is ArcGIS Survey 123, but when you just have the app on your phone, it just shows up Survey 123. So here is the QR code. If you haven't downloaded it, you can do so now. Just hover the camera over the screen on either the Apple QR code or the Android, depending on your device, and it should populate the survey app in your phone. And anyone who registered, I think in the last day or so, you might have not received your login information yet. That will be coming as soon as possible. Victoria is definitely working on that. We had a lot of last minute registrations and signing up for training, so we're just working on that. But if you did get your login and you're having any trouble logging in, definitely let us know so we can troubleshoot that before the day of PIT. We have some folks that try to reset password on the day of and it doesn't work. Sometimes that email goes to your spam. Sometimes that email is going to a different email due to a typo. So anything like that, if you have your login and you're unable to log in, definitely let us know as soon as you can before PIT, which is on the 25th again. So you can email Victoria V. Kelly. You'll have that information at the end again. So I'm just going to go over so you can see what it looks like. So this is what I mean. The full name is actually ArcGIS Survey 123, but once the app is downloaded, it only shows as Survey 123 on your phone's screen. But this is what it looks like if you are not sure if you were with the right one. There it is. Do we get login info after registering or after signing up for this training? Great question. I know that it's going out to folks that signed up for training. So if you haven't gotten your login information yet, you can definitely just send a chat to Chloe so she can note it, and we can make sure that we get the numbers for that and the information back to Victoria. Although I'm pretty sure she knows who has login and who doesn't. But since we're all here, definitely please send that information to Chloe so she can note it on the attendance, and we can send that summary to Victoria after so she can follow up. But don't worry, you can still follow along in this video, and then we'll make sure you have the video to follow along. Once you have your login, you can go in and do some test surveys. So you shouldn't have any trouble with that. Did anyone try to download the app and you're having trouble downloading the app, or are we all good with downloading? Good, thumbs up, thank you. Yeah, okay. So these are the tips. Don't share passwords, although I don't know who's trying to get into this, this app for you anyway. Logging into one device at a time is important. Sometimes we register our login on the computer and then we log in on the phone and then we forget and then we like click in on the computer again or something and you're like, why do I keep getting logged out of my phone? It's the multiple devices thing. I know that happened with Outreach Grid. So if you're logging in on maybe your iPad and then the day of you're on your phone and you're like, I keep getting kicked out, something's weird, it's because you're logging in on multiple devices. So just keep that in mind. We are using personal mobile devices, so tablets, cell phones. I think there will be some tablets available the day of PIT, but there's very few. So we ask that there are the apps on your phone for use. And laptops, this is in here every year, and I don't know anyone that's tried to use a laptop on PIT because you would be carrying it around as you're walking around. But if you're using a laptop, it requires steady Wi-Fi connection. So if you had a hotspot and your laptop was connected, that would absolutely work. But if you're trying to do interviews on your laptop offline, it's not going to register. Whereas a mobile device, a tablet or a cell phone, using the app, you can not have any data and not be on Wi-Fi, and you can still collect interviews. What happens is that those interviews go into your saved outbox, and once you're connected to some kind of data or Wi-Fi, it will automatically send to the system. So anyone who's not comfortable using their data, like my phone is set off, of course, to automatically use data when I'm not on Wi-Fi, so it's going to send in. But if you have your data off and your Wi-Fi off, you're going to want to make sure you return to your deployment center, connect to the Wi-Fi, and those surveys will automatically get sent in, and you will definitely see that when we get to the application video. And practice. So we encourage practicing. I did a lot of practice when we were testing it in the beginning. You can do any surveys for practice up until the end of January 24th. So do not do any practice surveys the morning of PIT. Like, you know, if you had an afternoon shift and you're nervous and you wanted to go through it again, just don't do anything the day of, because now we're collecting that information and that's all going into our system. So get all your final practice in on January 24th, please. And if you have any trouble, again, reach out to Victoria. During PIT, you can go to your team lead, they'll troubleshoot, they'll reach out to someone at the deployment center. It should be easy breezy. And Chloe put in the chat, since there have been lots of last minute registrations, not everyone has received the login information. So Victoria is working on getting those out as soon as possible, but still definitely let Chloe know if you haven't received, just so we can make note and make sure what our information is matches what Victoria has for who needs it. Okay, so we're into the video. And again, I'm not seeing the play button. Oh, there it is. Yay. Okay. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
Now we are going to review the PIT survey questions and app. First, you will see a demonstration of the app while we review the survey questions. Then you will have the opportunity to practice completing a survey in the app while following along with the video. Of course, your trainer can pause the video at any time, so please don't be afraid to ask questions. The app we are using is Survey123. Before training, you should have received an email with instructions to set up your ArcGIS account. This is how you access the Survey123 app. If you have not done so already, please check your email, including your spam folder, and set up your account using the link in your email when your trainer says to do so. Please let your trainer know if you have not received this email. Please also let your trainer know if you already have an ArcGIS.
Oh, it clicked out because I went to chat. That's why. But this is Victoria. It's like at 2 times the speed. But I think it's really good.
Survey123 or Esri account through your employer. After today's session, you will have the opportunity to continue practicing completing surveys in the Survey123 app until Wednesday, January 24th, the day before PIT. So let's go ahead and get started. Once you have the app downloaded and you've logged in using the link in your email, please log into the app. Once you've done that, please allow the app to access your location, at least while you're using the app, because this is how we create the heat map. Then you can go ahead and download the HLA Homelessness Count PIT survey. Once you click and download that survey, you'll see it there on your My Survey 123 homepage. And then you're ready to go. To start a PIT survey, you just click that HLA Homelessness Count icon and then click Collect at the bottom of the screen. Your current location will automatically load to the map. If this is incorrect, please click the map and move it to select a new location. If you've allowed the app to use your location, you should not have to do this. However, if you need to, it's important to know how. You can also, in the search bar here, enter a specific address or location. Let's say I am completing surveys in a Walmart parking lot, for instance. I can select Walmart or enter Walmart, and it will give me options for addresses close to my location on the map. I just select that location and then the check box, and then it has my location in the map. I am then going to select my survey zone and zone code. Please use any zone and zone code for training. Once you have your zone and your code selected, hit the arrow to move forward. This next screen is going to be an introduction script. Please practice reading this and don't be afraid to make it a little more your own because nobody wants to be interviewed by a robot. Okay? Once I've read that, I will click the arrow and move on to the next screen. If they say they do have a few minutes to complete the survey, I will select yes. And then I'll ask if they have completed the survey earlier today. If they say that they have done a survey earlier today, I will select yes. I will ask where, say library, and then I will hit the checkbox and submit the survey. I will then thank them for their time and move on because we are not going to do a second survey with somebody. We are going to then move on to the next person. And when we start surveying the next person, we will hit collect. We will make sure that our location is accurate. We will select our survey zone and code, and we will read our introduction script again. Once we've done that, we'll hit the arrow. We will ask if we are able to survey this person. Yes. Have they completed this survey earlier today? Let's say this time they have not. This is their first time, so we'll say no. And then you will see the consent script pop up on screen. Please read the blue part of this script, which is a Pinellas Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, is the information system electronic database used to record and analyze client, service, and housing data for individuals and families who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. Pinellas HMIS is used to 1. Understand clients' needs. 2. Plan to have appropriate resources. And 3. Inform public policy in an attempt to end homelessness. Only staff who work directly with clients or who have administrative responsibilities can look at, enter, or edit client records. Data may be shared without the client's consent in instances of serious threats of health or safety if it is believed that the use or disclosure is necessary to prevent or lessen a serious and imminent threat to the health or safety of an individual or the public. Once we've read that, we will move on to the next page where we record consent. We'll ask, do you understand? They say yes, we'll say yes. And do you agree to continue? If they say no to either of these questions, that's completely okay. We will just mark no. We will say reason for ending this survey refused. We will hit that check mark and we will submit the survey. We will thank them for their time and we will move on to survey the next person. However, let's pretend that they did agree to continue and then we'll move on to the next question. Before we do that though, please note, consent is really critical. The person might consent to completing the survey, but then withdraw consent for individual questions, and that is okay. Somebody is not required to answer every single question, though we do hope that they answer all the questions. So it's really, really important that that is understood. And once we have consent recorded, we are going to ask where the individual slept last night. Please note that we are only asking about the night of Wednesday, January 24th into the morning of Thursday, January 25th. If an individual states that they slept on the street, in a car, park, camp, or somewhere similar, please go ahead, mark that, and move down to the next question. If they say that they were staying in a shelter, transitional housing, or hotel motel paid for by somebody else, you'll see that you are prompted to ask, what is the name of the shelter or transitional housing where you slept last night? Or who paid for the hotel motel where you slept last night? Go ahead and record that information. Let's say they said HEP did. Somebody might also say that they were couch surfing, doubling up, staying at a friend's house, something like that. We do go ahead and complete these surveys as well. So if they say that, mark couch surfing and scroll down to the next question. However, if an individual says that they were in jail or prison, in a hospital or treatment facility, or in a house or apartment that they rent or own, and this does include hotel or motels that they pay for by themselves, please note that we are not able to complete these surveys. If they indicate any of these answers, jail or prison, hospital or treatment facility, house or apartment that they rent or own, then we will thank them for their time. We will click that arrow to submit the survey, and then we will move on to the next person. However, let's pretend that this individual was sleeping on a street. So we will scroll down and answer the next question. Do you currently have any other adults or children under the age of 18 in your household who are unhoused with you? So we are going to say yes. How many adults? Well, no adults. They are the only adult in their household, so we are going to answer 0 for that. How many children under 18? The answer is 1 there, so we are going to mark 1 by clicking that plus sign. And then we are going to hit the arrow to move forward. Now we are going to complete the survey for the adult who is standing in front of us. Please note that this question about survey category is the type of survey we will complete for this person. And there are 3 options here. Adult available means that an adult or an unaccompanied minor, somebody under the 18 who lives alone, under the age of 18 who lives alone, is standing in front of you completing a survey. Every present adult should complete an adult available survey. Adult not available means that you are completing a supplemental survey for an adult who is not present. You might complete one of these if, for instance, you're doing a survey with somebody whose spouse is at work. In that case, the person who is doing the survey, who is standing in front of you doing the survey, would be adult available. The spouse at work would be adult not available. Children is, of course, for anyone age 17 or younger, whether or not they are present. The only time you would not use children for somebody under the age of 18 is if they are an unaccompanied minor, in which case they would be adult available. The individual we are surveying who is standing in front of us is an adult. They are right there, so we are going to do adult available. They are the head of their own household. If you are doing an individual survey, they are always going to be the head of their own household. So they're the head of their household. Then we are going to ask if they would give us their first and last name. Of course, as with all questions, somebody might choose not to answer this question, but it is really important for us that we do get the answer to this question. First and last name is one of the primary ways that we ensure we are only counting people one time. So please do your best to get the first and last name. Let's say that this survey is for John Smith. We're then going to ask John if they know their date of birth. Let's say John does, and they are willing to give us their full birthday. Let's say John was born April 1st, 1962. So we are going to go to date. And then it looks like you're going to have to scroll through every year and month. Don't worry, you are not. If you click year there, you'll see that you can actually go through this little scroll bar and you can scroll down to 1962. Please note that you do have to have 1962 in the middle. You'll see here, I cannot click on 1961 or 1963 because it is not in the center, but I can click on 1962. While we are here, I want to note that this scroll only goes so far back as 1949. So if somebody was born in 1948 or earlier, you can use this toggle to 1949 and then use the arrows to go back further from there. So John was born in 1962. We're going to erase that birthday so we can put his correct one in there. May, I'm going to scroll through those months, though I could also do that same toggle. But I think we were April 2nd, 1962, which I think is what I said for John. So you'll see here that John's age has automatically populated. He is 61 years old. Perfect. Now we are going to move on to the next question, and we are going to ask John if he could provide us with his social security number, or at least the last 4 digits of his social security number. Again, the social security number, the birthday, and the name are some of the primary ways that we ensure everybody is counted once and only once for the point in time count. So this data is incredibly important. Please try your best to get it. If John doesn't want to give us a social security number, we'll go ahead and we'll mark that as appropriate. However, let's say John does give us the last 4 of his social. We'll do partial. Then we'll go ahead and we'll type that in. Done. You'll notice that if instead of done, I hit click that checkbox, it'll tell me that I haven't answered every question. So I'm not submitting incomplete surveys. Once I have the social security number entered, I'm going to ask John how they identify their gender. I am able to select as many options as needed here. And of course, as with all questions, this is based on self-reporting. So please do not answer this for John. Please let John answer this themselves. So let's say that John identifies as a man and as non-binary. We're going to ask John if they are currently pregnant. John is not. And then we're going to ask John what race they identify as. Again, you'll notice that you can select multiple options here. Let's say that John identifies as white. Then we are going to ask John if he currently serves or has ever served in the military. And let's say he is a veteran. Yes. And you can see, of course, before I hit yes, that it did still have that required box up. That's because, of course, I had submitted that checkbox, but I hadn't actually answered every question yet. So once I say yes, John is a vet, it'll prompt me to thank him for his service. So please thank John for his service. And then we're going to ask John what the last grade they completed in school was. Let's say John got their bachelor's degree. We're going to ask John how long they were in Pinellas County before they became unhoused. Did they arrive unhoused, which means that they moved here while they were experiencing homelessness? Were they here for 1 to 3 months, less than a month, less than 12 months before they started experiencing homelessness? Were they here for more than a year before they started experiencing homelessness? Or are they a lifetime Pinellas County resident? Let's say that John moved to Pinellas County 5 years ago, and was in Pinellas for a couple of years before he started experiencing homelessness. So we're going to say 1 year or longer. Then we're going to ask John what area he mainly stays in. You can see here that you have multiple cities to choose from. You also have Hillsborough County and Pasco County, and you can choose other cities, states, and counties. If they choose other cities, counties, or states, please indicate that in the box there. Sarasota, let's say. Done. And then we would move forward. However, let's instead say that John is usually in Safety Harbor. Then we're going to ask if John was ever in foster care. Let's say no. And we're going to ask John about their sexual orientation and if they identify themselves to be heterosexual, lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, unsure, or if they don't know. And let's say John identifies as gay. And then we're going to ask John if housing-related opportunities are available. Would you like to provide contact information so that we can contact you? This gives folks the opportunity to follow up with people after PIT. If John does want to be contacted, then our teams might reach out to him if housing-related opportunities are available that might be relevant to him. So let's say John says yes. You'll notice that you can give a phone number, an email address, and or a frequent location or mailing address. You do not have to provide all of this information. But let's say that John gives us his phone number and his frequent location, which is the Maddie Williams Center in Safety Harbor. And done. Now we're going to ask John what the primary reason that caused them to lose their permanent housing this time was. Please know that you might get some backstory from folks here, and it's really important to honor that history while narrowing down the cause of this specific incident of homelessness. So let's say that John experienced homelessness when he was living in Virginia and then got a job offer in Florida. So John moved to Florida and was stably housed in Florida for a couple of years before he began experiencing homelessness because he lost his job. And then John got a new job, got back on his feet, managed to secure housing, ended up having to move out because he couldn't afford the doubled cost of rent and is now on the street So the reason that John's experiencing homelessness this time would be not enough income. All of those other reasons, all of those other stories, all of those other parts of John's history are incredibly important. But again, we are narrowing down what caused this specific incident of homelessness, which is that John couldn't afford the doubled rents. So we're going to say not enough income. We're going to ask John if they've ever been evicted. If the answer is 0, please say 0. Let's say John has been evicted 1 time, though. So we're going to say 1 and then done. And we're going to ask John, was that eviction in Pinellas County? Let's say no. Then we're going to ask John, have you been in jail or prison within the last 12 months? Let's say, yes, John, spent a couple of nights in jail. You will notice the next 3 questions are all kind of a set. They are very related. And if you approach them this way, it might make answering them and helping folks answer them a little bit easier. So in the past 3 years, how many months in total do you think you've been unhoused? Remember, we are completing the survey in January of 2024. So we are thinking back to January of 2021. So since January of 2021, how many months in total do you think you've been unhoused? Well, you have here different options between 1 month and 12 months or more than 12 months, just to keep things a little bit simpler. So in John's case, he might say, I've been more than a year. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. Perfect. I'm just going to put more than 12 months for this. The next question is going to be, including this time, how many separate times have you stayed on the streets or in shelters in the last 3 years? So since that same January of 2021, John, how many separate times have you stayed on the streets? So you were unhoused for a little bit, and then you secured housing for a little bit, and you're back on the streets now. So that would be 2 times since January 2021. Okay, 2 times. So we're going to say 2 times. And now this last question in this set, how long have you currently been unhoused? We're going to say, okay, so this most recent time, how many months, years, or days has it been since you lost that housing? And let's say John said it was a year and a half. And you'll notice here that I cannot say 1.5. It'll just put 15. So I have to say, John, do you think it was closer to 1.5 years or 2 years? And if John says, I don't know, 2 years, say, okay, John, 2 years. There we go. And you'll see here, because I hit that check mark, I got required questions because can't submit an incomplete survey. So when I put in 2 years for John, it auto-populated 730 days so that you don't have to do that math. And now we're going to move on to health conditions. And we're going to ask John all of these individually. We're going to say, John, do you suffer from or have any of the following health conditions or issues? And again, please take this as self-reporting, not what you think the answer should be. So, John, do you have alcohol use disorder? Let's say no. Drug use disorder? No. A chronic health condition? No. A developmental disability? No. HIV/AIDS? No. Mental health disorder? No. Physical disability? Yes. Okay. And do you have access to health services or a medical clinic? And this might be, you might hear folks say, oh, well, I have the blue card, or I do the mobile medical or the MMU. That is the healthcare for the homeless program. If they say that, if they say they go to Bayside, then the answer is going to be yes. And then the last question on the survey is going to be about domestic violence. I'm going to pause on this because I do want to talk about the fact that this is a sensitive question, both to ask and answer. Of course, we have to approach this entire survey with care and compassion. But we also have to understand that this is a particularly sensitive topic for a lot of people. So please be prepared for folks to maybe be uncomfortable, maybe get quiet, or maybe rush through this answer. Please also be prepared for folks to say, what? So we'll start by asking, are you a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking? If they say, what does that mean? You might want to say something like, have you ever been afraid for your safety with a romantic partner or family member? And if they say yes, we'll mark yes, and we'll move down to the next question. Is the current unhoused situation a result of fleeing from domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking? They ask what this means. Are you currently experiencing homelessness as a direct result of the domestic violence or that fear? Then go ahead and mark their response. Yes, no, don't know, prefer not to answer. Let's say no. And then we will hit the arrow to move on to John's kids survey. We have completed John's survey. Congratulations. Now we're going to ask John about their kid. So for John's child, because this is a child under the age of 18, it does not matter if they are there or not. We're going to mark them as a child, children. And we're going to ask John, what is this individual's relationship to you? John will say child. And then we're going to ask John for the child's first and last name. Again, please try really hard to get the name, birth date, and social security number because it is really important that we are able to ensure everyone is counted once and only once through this process. So let's go ahead and mark yes for name. And let's say they are Joe Smith. Of course, if John had chosen not to give you the child's name, we would just mark no, and we would move on to the next part. But they didn't this time. So Joe Smith. And then we're going to ask John for Joe's date of birth. Let's say that John gives us Joe's partial date of birth. That's going to be month and year. Let's say that Joe was born in May of 2014. So we are going to scroll to May. And then we can actually erase the year here and we can write in 2014. And then we just click on the page and it will auto-populate that in years. And Joe Smith is 9 years old. And now we're going to ask John for Joe's social security number. If John doesn't have that information or doesn't want to give it, of course, we can just say no or don't know or prefer not to answer. However, again, please try and get at least the last four. Let's say we do. There we go. And then we're going to ask John how Joe identifies their gender. Let's say that Joe identifies as a boy. And then we're going to ask what race Joe identifies as. Let's say that Joe identifies as white. And then we are going to hit the checkbox or the check mark. And then we are going to send the survey. And now we have completed a survey for John and Joe Smith. Way to go. Now is your opportunity to try a survey while following along with the video.
That would be the second half of the video where then you would pull up your app and then go through it with Victoria the way we just did. Does anyone want to do that now? Or are you comfortable moving on? And you can review that when you have your logins. I'm not sure how many here have their logins. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and skip that. We're okay with skipping. Don't see any. You can chat privately if you want to play it. Nobody will know it was you. I think we're okay. So I love that video. She did really
So
good.
please,
We have not had that every year. So it was really cool when we got that video for training. Again, you will have this information, and when you're able to log in, definitely get in the app, go through it with her, and then see if you're having any trouble with anything. I did it a few times, didn't have any trouble. I know some people actually got kicked back while they were doing the survey, but I think the bugs are out now. So do we have any questions about anything we saw so far in that video while it's fresh? All right, I'm seeing head shakes. Perfect. Again, send it in the chat if you have anything that comes up. So that was the app that we are primarily using, but we will go over the paper surveys just in case you end up having to do it for whatever reason. Your phone glitches, someone's blocking all the service, we can't use any devices. So we're going to see what one looks like on the next slide, but what you should take note of especially is the second bullet where it says, if completing the paper survey, fill out the top section. This is going to be where you put your information. So volunteer name, that's your name so that we know who completed the survey. If there was like who wrote the survey, of course, the person you're interviewing is the one completing it, but you're doing it for them. So make sure your name is there in case your team lead reviews it and they have any questions, they're able to come to you to get any clarification in case there was anything that was kind of marked iffy and we can't tell which box was selected or what was written there. That would be very helpful for reaching back out. And then you're going to want to put your team lead's name, which you'll have at the beginning, and then the survey zone you'll get when you get your assignment. So we don't know that right now. You'll get it when you deploy. And on a paper survey, I don't know if you remembered in the app, there's like a section for when they say yes to DV, the domestic violence mark in the app puts that extra layer of protection on it when the information gets sent in because it gets sent directly from the app to our database. Now, on a paper survey, that's not going to happen. So, what we're asking you to do is that if they said yes to being a survivor of domestic violence, just privately ask your team leader to highlight the completed survey. They'll do it, I think it's like the top corner, and then they will be able to put those aside, and then a single person will do that data entry, and then when it's entered into HMIS, that management system, it's marked and there's an extra layer of protection on that. So if the survey ends early while you're completing the paper survey, there is a checkbox that you can click and just put unable to complete survey. So then you can just put a line through any of the unanswered questions, and that way we know that it was consciously incomplete and it wasn't like an accident. There wasn't like a second paper that goes with it where we finish the survey. And this is what it looks like. So this is the full survey. And if you look at the top right of the first page, that's where that little box is that you would mark unable to complete survey. You'll see that all the information here is pretty much the same as what's on the app. It's just, all on the paper for you to write instead of being able to fill in easily. So I'm not going to go over everything just because it's pretty much exactly the same as the app. So make sure when you get to the date of birth and the social, we do need as much of that information as possible. It's very uncommon for clients not to give it's crazy actually how many clients would give me their full social over the phone. So I don't think that we get much kickback on that. But if you're unable to get the full social, just ask for the last four digits. This allows us to identify clients, some names, even if they don't seem like they would be that common, you'd be surprised how many duplicates we have in our management system. So we need as much data as we can get to differentiate clients when we're entering the data. So you'll note that birth month and year are required. Even if we can't get the date, make sure we can get the birth month and the year in there. So I just want to make sure nothing else here. Okay, so on the second page, if we're looking at the question 20, in the past 3 years, how many months in total do you think you have been unhoused? So this is kind of what Victoria was emphasizing in the presentation as well on this section where it was number 16 that she said, what was the primary reason that caused you to lose your permanent housing this time? So we want to make sure we hear what they're saying. Don't cut anybody off. Let them share as much as they're willing to share, but make sure we're getting the right information. So Victoria mentioned they might have multiple reasons that led to different instances of homelessness, but say they were staying with a friend more recently and then I was staying with Chloe and then we got in a fight and she kicked me out and that's why I'm on the street today. Even if, I was renting my own place and then I got fired and then I lost my car, I couldn't Uber and then I got evicted, that's a previous instance. But then I got to stay with Chloe and I was no longer homeless, but then we got in a fight and she kicked me out. So in that situation, you would choose maybe family issues or yeah, I guess it would be family issues because I would be staying with, even though it's a friend, that would be the closest one there because it wouldn't be the eviction because that's a previous instance. Eric said, what if they have multiple reasons such as lost job because of drug use? That's a really good question. Let me see, check only one. So to me, if I heard that, I would say, well, you lost your job because you were using drugs. So I would choose drugs, and that will be up to you and your discretion. If in the moment you are just not sure and you don't want to put in something incorrect, you can definitely go to the team lead. It does help to have asked these questions before and also just like encounter these conversations with our clients. So some of us might be more knowledgeable about what they want in the homeless management system because that data can be kind of specific. So that's a good question. If you don't feel comfortable choosing an option from the story that you heard, definitely tag in your team lead, and they'll have just hopefully a little more experience so they'll know which one they want in HMIS. So it's the same thing with number 20, where in the past 3 years, how many months in total do you think you've been unhoused? We want to make sure we're adding up everything in the last 3 years. So there are questions that's like, including this time, how many separate times have you stayed on the streets or in shelters in the last 3 years? That would be how many instances. And then the other number 20 is like how much time in total. So we just want to make sure we're aware of the differences there. Do we have any questions about the paper survey? Looks good. Alrighty. And then the question slide. There it is. So ending your shift, you did all your surveys and we're getting ready to go. You have all your stuff. You're looking at your app to make sure the surveys are submitted. Here's what we're looking for. So at the end of your shift, if you have not been connected to data, which I would assume most of us are typically running on data when we're not on Wi-Fi, so your surveys are probably submitted. But here's what it looks like if it's not. On the left-hand side, you'll see that little teal or green box at the bottom that says outbox, and there's a number 1 there, meaning there's one unsent survey. So this is what it will look like if you have surveys that have not been uploaded. On the right-hand side, where you don't see that, is what it will look like if all your surveys were submitted. So I would say that's one user design change I would do if I was using this app, because when I submit my surveys, I can't see how many surveys I've done. So if I did 3 surveys in a row and I came back to my home page, you'll see what's on the right. You can't see that you just completed 3 surveys. But if I had data off and I completed the surveys and I went back to that page, I would see what's on the left and I would see that number 3 in my outbox. So I kind of like to see how many I completed, but it's of course good to get it all uploaded. So if you're like me and you prefer to see the number that you completed just to kind of keep track, then I would turn my data off, turn my Wi-Fi off, do PIT, do the surveys, and then at the end of your shift, you should see what's on the left and you'll see the outbox, how many ever surveys you completed, and then you can connect to Wi-Fi or data. And then once that loads, that outbox will disappear and it will be sent to the server. So just something to keep in mind. And then ending your shift, so what it will actually look like. So you came on the end of your 3rd hour. Okay, we're all good to go. We interviewed as many people as we can. There's not anyone left out here. We've kind of just been standing around, so we're going to get dismissed. So now you have the bus passes, you have the surveys that you did on your phone, maybe you have paper surveys. What you're going to do is return all the unused materials to your team leader. So that includes leftover bus passes, all the paper surveys, whether you fill them out or not. And I think on the day of, now we're doing lanyards instead of t-shirts. So for identification, you will be getting a lanyard. And I think we have like a pen stylus thing that we're also using. The lanyard we're requesting is returned as well, but if you want it as a keepsake to remember you're volunteering, then absolutely keep it. And thank you for helping us anyway. But if you don't need it, you're not going to use it, you're going to throw it out, donate it, just go ahead and give it back to the team lead and we'll use it next year. The pens are yours. The pens are yours to keep. So it's a little gift from us to you. And the surveys on the application, again, you're going to want to make sure you show that screen to your team lead before you're dismissed, just so they can verify that, like maybe on the day of you forgot how the data and the Wi-Fi thing works. So you just want to make sure you're checking with the team lead. They've been trained, so they should know to collect the bus passes, collect the lanyards if they can, collect all the surveys, and we're checking applications to make sure the outbox is empty and all the surveys have been uploaded. So if they don't remember, hopefully you remember, hopefully everybody remembers. You do not need to return to the deployment center if you have a way home from, where you ended up getting deployed to. Usually I've seen folks ride together to a location that they were sent to. Sometimes you can walk there from the deployment center, sometimes you can't. So it just depends on all what your carpool situation was, but don't feel obligated to return to the deployment center for any reason unless, you know, your vehicle's there or your ride is going to pick you up there. And then just some last reminders. These are the important dates and stuff. You can take a screenshot of this, put it on your calendar, your planner, your Outlook, whatever you use. The 19th is when we should all be getting our schedules for volunteering. So, you know, getting our shifts, including us. We don't have ours yet, I don't think, Chloe. If we don't have it by the 21st, that is a Sunday. So if you don't have it by Sunday, if you happen to check your email on the weekends, maybe you'll get it. But make sure you email Victoria as soon as possible if you haven't gotten it by then. But you don't need to worry until the 21st if you haven't gotten it, because we are getting a lot of last minute participants. So she'll be doing that for the next couple of days. You know, it's a lot of people to juggle in their schedules. So she's trying to figure it out and make sure everyone's trained. Again, the 24th is going to be the last day to do your practice. That's a Wednesday. So PIT is on the 25th. It's a Thursday. Do not do any practice surveys on the day of PIT. Again, please don't do that. And of course, final reminder, PIT is on the 25th. For us, it's all day. For you guys, it's maybe a couple hours. So just make sure we remember that PIT is on the 25th and keep your schedules clear until you have an assignment, unless, of course, you only had a few hours you're able to volunteer. Just make sure your assignment aligns with that time. And we are at the end. So did anybody have any questions about anything during this presentation? We hope to answer them now, but if not, you're welcome to reach out to Victoria. Again, that's her email. I'm going to go over to the survey. If you all have any suggestions, any thoughts on this training, you can submit. I don't know if somebody maybe suggested that Victoria make that video, but she made it and it's awesome. So if you guys have any suggestions like that, feel free to send that in. Hi, I think we're getting some new folks here. Maybe they're coming early for the 12 o'clock. But I am here if there are any questions. If not, I'll let you go. Sorry, I forgot to do like the go ahead and go if you need to. But that is the end of it. Thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you again for volunteering for PIT. This is a really huge effort. So we couldn't do it without volunteers. And we're really grateful for you guys. But have a good day if you're good. Thank you. All right. Did Stephanie just join, Chloe, or was that person there? Oh, they're gone now. So I guess they know. Okay.
Yeah, she had just joined when we were like on the last few slides. Same with the other person that joined like right at the end.
Oh, yeah. And then they left right away. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they get on the next one. Maybe it's the same link and they just clicked on it to test it out or something.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your help. Yay. See you later. Have a good day.
See ya. You too.